Hello everyone and welcome back to Weekend Moblin. It's the start of 2020 and what better way to kick off the new year than the same as every other channel and tell you what our top games of the last decade have been. That being said, this isn't a top 10, nor is it a top game for each year, but rather for each genre of game, or at least the ones we could think of in a reasonable time limit. With that being said, let's waste no time and get right into things. Now yes, there's been plenty of great RPGs the past decade, from Dragon Quest XI's, Persona 5, all the way to Fire Emblem Three Houses. All the games I just said are fully deserving of praise with solid gameplay and great stories. Dragon Quest is said to be the Chrono Trigger of today, and Persona 5 is compared to Final Fantasy VII fame when it was released. Fire Emblem blew people away with its deep story and fantastic character development that is some of the best the industry has ever seen. Though the games I just said are amazing, there was one game that took me for a serious surprise the first time I played it, and that was none other than the best RPG of this decade, in our opinion of course, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Developed by CD Projekt Red, starring a Witcher by the name of Geralt of Rivia, aka, it's a Monster Hunter. This series has gone on to see massive success, and that's not without reason. The deep levels in which you interact with NPCs on this adventure is truly something else to experience, and you'll be surprised at just how many honestly interesting side quests are scattered throughout your adventure. I remember the first time stumbling upon Elysian. I was inspired to film a horror movie with a similar design. There's all kinds of monstrosities in this game, like the Ladies of the Wood. They might appear at first as something one wouldn't mind clapping them cheeks, but I assure you, they are some grotesque, swamp-dwelling hags, and will show their true colors fast. But enough about my love of the character design. The DLC also offers up some great content and truly goes out of its way to be something worthwhile, and I won't spoil it here. Just go get the game if you haven't played it. It's available on all platforms and is on sale every other month. Now this one wasn't a hard choice for us here at Weekend Moblin. While we love so many other games of this genre, we absolutely fell in love with everything about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I'm sure you've noticed if you've been watching the channel, but we have a bit of a David Wise problem here at Weekend Moblin. While the first of the Return titles was great, this title took everything about that game and made it better. No longer was it just DK and Diddy, but Dixie was back! And she brought the cranky bastard along for the ride as well. Hell, even Funky Kong joins in for the fun on the Switch version. From new abilities thanks to the new characters, to the 3D angles now in the minecart areas and in the barrel blasting, there's a lot to be found here. This music is pure bliss, but honestly that's something I'll be going over more later in the video, so I'll wait on that. The atmosphere is the best of any side-scroller to date. The backgrounds are truly immersive, and you can lose yourself in them. We have a summer and fall Switch list on the channel, and DK Tropical Freeze has made both lists, and spoilers, it'll make the upcoming winter video as well. Not to mention the best thing about this game, the platforming itself. There's been other great platformers this generation as well, from other great developers like former Rare developers Playtonic, in the form of Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. This game featured music from David Wise as well, and had a gameplay style that was for the most part the same as Donkey Kong. But in the end, while it's truly worthy of an honorable mention, DK Tropical Freeze just beats any other title in this genre for the past decade, and that's why it wins. Now I know you've heard enough in the past few years about how 3D platformers used to dominate the game space, but that's just because it's very true. Back in the 64 days, games like Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie was all the rave and considered by many the best a game could get. For me, on a personal level, this is almost true. I love 3D platformers, so much so that second to Zelda, I'd say it's my favorite genre of all games. So needless to say, a new open sandbox style Mario game in the vein of 64 and Sunshine truly had me pumped. I couldn't believe the 3D platformer was back, and front and center in the Switch lineup. This game didn't disappoint in any way, shape, or form. It was like you took all the great things about a 3D Mario and added in what made Banjo so great and made this magical game. Mario's hat Cappy acted as a portable Mumbo. What more could you want in your life? From truly immersive 2D areas hidden within walls to oddly placed people in New Donk City You have hours and hours upon entertainment here. Being able to actually control different races of Mario's universe is something I've always wanted to do. So though Luigi might not be playable this go around, look at all that there is playable. In the end, it more than makes up for it and then some. Along with tons of moons scattered throughout each world and tons of costumes to collect, you'll have more than enough to keep you busy for a long time to come. While some moons are on the easy side, like very, very easy side, I find that's okay in the end. There's only 999 of them after all. And at the end of the day, if you're having fun, that's the point. And with Odyssey, fun is in the game. Now this one was extremely easy for us as well. When Mario Maker first arrived on the scene, it took every bit of free time I had from me for at least 3 solid months straight. This was a religious experience for me, guys. I couldn't stop thinking up levels and making more and more. It literally kept me up at night, going back and fixing things, making them perfect, and obsessing over every little detail. I was the creative type for this game and spent most of my time just making levels for others to play. From hard to basic Mario skill, I did it all, and I was a big sucker for aesthetics. With Mario Maker 2, that continues to this very day. This was the first time Nintendo had opened up the floodgates for Mario and allowed easy access, no longer requiring hacks, to make a proper Mario level. With the ability to share levels online, it took the YouTube scene by storm, with many creators popping up around the time and many bigger names playing it on streams constantly. I only hope with this next decade the Blue Blurs team is looking at it for the next Mania title. You know, maybe a Sonic Maker, please? My wife can testify my time spent with the title, and I'm sure she missed my company on many nights I spent drooling over my next amiibo-themed course. I miss those guys. Anyway, on to the next game. Now before I go on to this next one, I want to say that we felt conflicted with this. You see, the Switch, as you all know, is a handheld, yet the 3DS has so many truly amazing titles, we couldn't help but want to talk about at least one of them. So with that being said, let's get into this next option. We had to talk about this title, as it quickly became both me and Steve's favorite 2D style Zelda game. With the ability to rent items from a very likable character by the name of Revio, you could take on dungeons in whatever order you see fit. This really opened up the game, as opposed to the original title, A Link to the Past, and made the game more accessible to newer players. That's not saying this game was made for newer players in mind at all times. The dungeons were just as clever as you'd expect from the original title, and even more so if you ask us. The use of a new mechanic being able to turn into a painting really opened up the gameplay even more. The boss fights of said dungeons are definitely my favorite of the 2D Zeldas, and it's mostly thanks to this addition. Being able to go into walls and sneak around certain parts of the game and using it to travel to Lyrule, the opposite reality of Hyrule, or the Dark World of this game if you're a fan of the original. At first glance, it's a simple use of the Dark World from A Link to the Past, but once you travel to it, you'll discover it's got much more to see. Like the masked followers that live in Thieves Town, led by the Masked Elder with the belief that the Mask of Monsters will bring them salvation from Lyrule's dying world. Things like this bring this part of the game to life more than the Dark World ever did. But hey, I missed that pink bunny, so I feel you on that one. At the risk of making this a Link Between Worlds themed video, let's go ahead and move on. Ah, Animal Crossing. Yeah, you've probably seen this one coming a mile away. With New Horizons on the horizon, we definitely have this series on our minds lately, and that's perfectly fine because it's been around 8 years since New Leaf came out, and we are in some serious need of a new Animal Crossing adventure in our pathetic lives. With that being said, Stardew Valley is another great life simulator that came out this decade, so we feel we at least need to give it a shout out before we dive into this title. When it comes to life simulators, it simply doesn't get any more cozy or downright adorable than the series of this game. New Leaf didn't do much in the sense of changing things up, but with the ability to be the mayor this time, and with the cutest Isabelle by your side, it changed enough to make me hooked and start wasting my life away for hours paying off the honorable Tom Nook's debt. I now had free range of village projects and could make bridges, park benches. Now with New Horizons allowing you to place items anywhere, this doesn't seem as special, but for me at the time, I was grateful and was happy to take it. With Nintendo sending you letters with new items regularly, you had plenty of reason to keep turning on this title. And then they even went as far as to introduce Harvey and his campsite in a later update years after its release. This would allow you to pilot villagers you scanned with amiibo cards to move into your towns when traveling to your campsite via RV. You could even use amiibos like Wolflink and Ganon and have them move into your freaking town. How awesome is that? And I had to buy myself a Rolf card. Finally, no more playing around. Rolf is my best tiger friend for life, and I can make him automatically move in my game from now on. With the same charming music and atmosphere we come to expect from the series, this title is a reason in itself to own a Nintendo 3DS. Okay, seriously, who didn't see this one coming? Of course it's Super Smash Bros. From music, levels, characters, game modes, and options, this simply is the most packed game you will play to date. The Spirit Board's constant updates will have you collecting till the end of time, and even characters from series like Resident Evil can pop up in them. This game has it all. Over 80 freaking characters, over 800 music tracks. Keep in mind, between Piranha Plant and the first 4 characters of the Fighters Pass, we already have 5 DLC characters that's been added into the game, with one of the Fighters Pass characters yet to be announced, and even more fighters have already been announced to come later down the road. Banjo vs. Mario. Finally, they can settle the score. Is it Mario 64 or Banjo-Kazooie? Snake returns along with the Ocarina of Time styled Young Link and Ganondorf. Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, Bayonetta. They finally added Ridley and K. Rool. Geno is all that remains for longtime fan request, and I can seriously see that being a thing in the near future, and I never really thought it possible. What a year to live in. May 2020 keep Smash alive and well going into the new decade. I'd go on more about Smash, but we've seriously talked about Smash a lot on this channel already, so it's just safe to say, if you like a good party multiplayer and you like a video game character of, well, any sort, this game has you covered and then some. Yeah, another obvious choice here, but yep, here it is. Everyone's favorite karting series is still going strong into this decade, with the sales of 8 still topping the Switch's charts. I don't see another in the near future, but for now, this one's got the content to keep anyone covered for a long time to come. There's a good reason this game keeps selling. It's that good. And the DLC included with the Deluxe Edition is some of the best DLC for any game I've ever played. The Animal Crossing and Shy Guy Forest levels are some of my favorite in the series, and I love the additional characters like the Animal Crossing Villager and Link. The online is probably the best of any other first-party Nintendo title, and you'll always find matches in no time, and it's a great way to kill some time. I've had this title since launch, and I'm always picking it up for a quick match. Do yourself a favor, and if you like any previous Mario Kart title, pick this one up. It's the best one yet. What's there to be said that's not been said already about this series, with it having just wrapped up with the newest part, King of Cards, that's just as good, if not better than any other part of this game. Shovel Knight is not just great, it's legendary. This series felt like it belonged right there alongside Mega Man and Mario back in the NES days, but new. I know that can sound confusing, but it truly brought back the classic feeling of those classic titles, but it brought it with a modern flair and modern controls with a wacky story to boot, with music that will stay in your head for hours after playing the game, and gameplay that's perfect for that retro gaming feel. This game is definitely deserving of its spot on this list and as the #1 indie game of the decade. Let's hope Shovel Knight keeps growing and becoming the icon we all know he can be moving forward into this new decade. The night staying up with this game in the background with nothing but the glow of my Nintendo red neon lights going and the music playing softly in the background as I went to sleep. I'll never forget those nights, and no other game has made me even do something like this. David Wise, you are a genius, and if it was up to me, you'd be doing the music of all my favorite series. The music in this game is so moving. It hits right in the soul, and you can get so motivated from it alone enough to keep going, even when the game is throwing challenge after challenge your way. This isn't just the best soundtrack of this decade, this might very well be my favorite game soundtrack of all time. Okay, so yeah, this game rocks my ass off. In every way I could have imagined, I'd got the remake of Resident Evil 2 I'd always dreamed of. The first time playing through this game was an absolute terrifying thrill. The sound effects in the background would always take things to that uncomfortable level, no matter if you was alone or not. The peace you felt once running into new rooms from Mr. X on the original was gone entirely, as he would follow you into every room minus the save areas and the STARS office. This would make for some tense moments, like when the zombies got released from their jail cells, and you've got nowhere to run but straight through them, only to be met with a Mr. X at the end of the hall of zombies. Yep, that was a hell of a good time. Though the story wasn't as fleshed out in the sense of different scenarios, there was tons of replayability, and when replaying each time and learning the layout that much better, only feels so much more rewarding each playthrough, and you feel that accomplishment. From zombies' body parts falling off when shot, to tripping over corpses alerting a nearby liquor, there's tons of thrills around each corner. I want to keep talking about this game, but I feel like I could do a video over this game alone. And with the Resident Evil 3 remake and Resident Evil 2's anniversary coming right around on my birthday, there's a strong chance that I'll go ahead and make a video on this on another day, so I'll save what I have to say for then. Yep, another Resident Evil title. Now I won't lie, I'm not a big first-person shooter fan, and I wasn't exactly thrilled when I saw that the Resident Evil series was going to try it out for the 7th entry of the series. But once I tried out the demo, something clicked and I couldn't stop thinking about it. Upon release, I hadn't looked up much about it. I had played the demo and I knew I wanted it, and it was the kind of game that was best going into the first time knowing nothing. And yep, I was right. So right. This game took me for a spin. Next thing I knew, I was having my hand cut off by a chainsaw from my fiance, being attacked by the most violent redneck in gaming history, Jack Baker, who looks like my father-in-law, but very drugged out and oh god, oh god, yeah, we're gonna move away from that. The Bakers, oh man, I could go on about them all day. The best villains on any Resident Evil to date. I don't know what it is about crazy hillbillies that make me love them so much, but holy hell do I ever. Margaret Baker is my grandma if she was possessed by a spider demon in every way, and it scared the absolute hell out of me when she just pops up and catches you. And they even gave her some very interesting DLC. Well, I don't know if interesting is the right word or if disgusting better sums it up. Regardless, this game messes with you on deep levels. With a head in the fridge, a clown puppet that grabs you by the arm and carves a note into your arm, and downright freaky as f mold monsters, this game is definitely the most different Resident Evil title to date, and I love every goddamn second of it.
Get your ass back to the house. I will deal with you later.
I remember when the trailer hit for this around January of 2017. I absolutely could not contain my excitement for this release any longer. What went from mild hype raged with a burning fire unlike any game I'd experienced before. But was the hype worth it? Well, seeing as Breath of the Wild walks away with Weekend Moblin's Game of the Decade award, I'd say that is a solid yes. Not only did this game meet my expectations, it smashed them into pieces. What Nintendo referred to as the first ever open air title. A game where you would no longer need to be loading between screens for the world map to seamlessly unfold before you. Something you could see? Well, you could go to it. This opens Zelda up to be the kind of adventure Mr. Miyamoto had always dreamed of making since the original on the NES, with the introduction of the Sheikah Slate as well that would allow you to work with the game's many mechanics and offered up multiple ways to solve the game's many puzzles in the open world. Instead of dungeons, there were shrines that worked as mini dungeons spread throughout the world, and many of them would lead to some of the best puzzles on the game to unlock them. The bosses were mostly in the wilds of Hyrule, from the Brothers Hydox to the mighty Silver Lionel that dwells in the Colosseum ruins. This is something I spent a lot of time doing in Breath of the Wild. Fighting this dude with little equipped has always kept me entertained in some form or another. As for the actual dungeons, that's the only part of this game I can say was a little disappointing. They wasn't themed like temples of old, and there was only 4, which is fine as my favorite of the series only had 4 temples as well. It's just the lack of themes that hurts the experience. I like how you move around the floors of the Divine Beast, the namesake of the temples this time around, but they are honestly all the same, and they're just overall bigger versions of shrines. But don't let that little bit of negativity get you from thinking this game is any less deserving of Game of the Decade. The first time seeing the lights of Satori Mountain, then blasting your way to find out what's at the top to discover one of gaming's most mysterious happenings in the Lord of the Mountain, is one of the moments that will always be stained into my mind. Seeing the Akala region and exploring its many side quests like the Terry Town one where you help build the town, ultimately leading to a marriage scene like the one from Majora's Mask, I think this was my favorite side quest overall actually. The other parts that we really enjoyed was how much lore was introduced this time around. From the ruins of Lon Lon Ranch to Hyrule Castle itself, you can literally spend hours upon hours just exploring the ancient ruins across Hyrule, with so many unanswered questions like the missing Zonai that disappeared overnight. This game just makes you think, and that's one of my favorite things about the Zelda series. The lore is so deep and they always seem to be able to really make you care, like you just can't with other titles. YouTubers like Zeltech are still making videos over Breath of the Wild's many mysterious locations. This is just a testament to why this game is Game of the Decade. Go to any Nintendo related video on YouTube and I promise between this and Smash, there's always going to be a Breath of the Wild comment somewhere. It's been that way since release, and with the sequel coming hopefully within the next year or so, you can only expect the levels of greatness to go even higher. For me, simply having traditional Zelda temples but with the open world of the original is all you need and you've got me sold. But this is Nintendo we are talking about. We know they will throw things our way that we never seen coming, and that is what we love about the Big N here at Weekend Moblin. With that concludes our Game of the Decade awards. Wow, did that take a lot longer than I thought, but I really wanted to make a point for each game on the list and explain things the best I could. With that, guys, Happy New Year, and I hope you stick around for all the content to come in 2020. We plan to hit hard this year, so be sure to hit that subscription button if you've got the time to keep up with us as we upload. Sorry if a game you loved was left off this list. This is simply based on our opinions and ours alone. So if you don't agree, that's fine. Go ahead and tell us what games were your favorite games in the decade in the comments below. This has been Weekend Moblin saying, stay tuned, till next time.